Hey guys, I said I was going to try to get better with coming on and making videos, but I lied because I haven't felt like it. But anyway, um, most of you are aware that my husband passed away from COVID in 2020, and so I've been kind of MIA for a few months, just trying to get myself together and find a new normal and figure out who I am in this whole process, which is, been kind of difficult. So, I'm just going to start kind of doing little short videos to kind of tell you guys what happened and, get you up to speed as to what's going on now. So, when we all had that big scare with COVID, we like immediately went on lockdown here at the house. Um, Took all the precautions, really was staying safe. And so in September, my husband, he took off of work and everything because he was doing Uber and Lyft. So in September, it's his birthday is September 21st. So we kind of try to celebrate our birthdays together because mine is October 16th. So I was like, hey, that's two birthdays. Let's go on and do ours together. And so right after his birthday, my 24 and 25-year-old daughters they had babies that both were 5 months old at this point. And so I couldn't watch one of them. And I had another appointment, blah, 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 blah. So there is a family member that we have that knew that their grandmother was sick. So I don't know if she knew that the grandmother had COVID or not, but I know that she knew that her grandmother was sick. And she babysat both of the 5-month-old babies because I wasn't available. And so I would say maybe the first week of October, my daughter contacted me and said, hey, we were around this family member and they said that their grandma tested positive for COVID. So I said, okay. So she said that she was testing the baby and she'll let me know. And I said, okay, we ain't really think too much of it. And so her test ended up coming back positive. And the other 5-month-old, her test was positive. And so our children, our babies, were near the 5-month-olds. And so they all tested negative. But it's almost like you can carry it on your clothes and your hair. And so my husband, because he went to go pick them up, was immediately exposed to COVID. He had just turned 40. And so fast forward a few days later, we didn't go get tested, but the kids were tested just like for precautions, and everybody was negative. So we was like, maybe we didn't get it. And so by the time my birthday came, he had kind of a little tiny cough. So this is October 16th because that's my birthday. And so he had a little tiny cough, a little fever. And so I had a fever for a day, didn't think anything about it. We didn't think it was COVID. We wouldn't have a reason to think it was COVID, even though we were exposed, because the babies had came back negative. And so it was like, okay, I had a fever for a day. I had some chills, but it was like I also was dealing with anemia. So I kind of thought it was that anemia will give you a headache. It'll make you weak. You take your medicine, you start eating some meat or whatever. It takes about 5 weeks for you to feel better. And so that didn't seem odd at all. But it was like his fever wouldn't really go away. And again, I don't know why we didn't think it was COVID, but we just didn't think it was COVID. And so we fast forward. It was like he still had a little tiny baby cough, a fever on and off, but nothing seemed major at all. So I guess, once you're exposed to it, you have your symptoms for 2 weeks and then you're not contagious anymore. So by the time I guess the 2 weeks came where we both should have been okay and not really had any more symptoms or anything, everything should have just been okay, he just started getting worse. And so the kids were going to go away and do like a Halloween party. So now we're fast forwarding to October 30th, which was Friday. So my husband was just coughing like crazy, and he was like, I think I might go over to my mother's house so you can get some rest. And I was like, you don't have to worry about that. Just sleep and cough wherever. And I was like, kind of cover your face just in case. So, I'm just cleaning stuff up and disinfecting and things like that, not really thinking anything was wrong. So he was like, I need to go to the emergency room. And I said, okay, baby. I get dressed, I go take him to the emergency room. And so I let him out at the door, and then I went to go park. So I came back in, they was like, well, he has COVID symptoms, so we can't really let you go in. So I went back out and I texted him. I kept trying to call him, but I guess the phone didn't work there. So I end up saying, hey, I'm just going to go home because they won't let me come in because you have COVID symptoms. And eventually he called me and said he was ready. They gave him some cough syrup. They didn't say that his oxygen was like low, but it was like 97, which is normal in COVID patients. And so he had an inhaler, and that was just it. And so they tested him. So I picked him up maybe 10-ish at night, Friday, October 30th. So about 5 a.m., this is Saturday, October 31st. So this is Halloween. The hospital called and said, hey, you tested positive, so just make sure you wear a mask and kind of stay in your room. And, they kind of gave us some pointers, but I was already doing that. And so then I called all the other children. I was like, can y'all just keep our babies because he tested positive? They said, okay. And they was like, well, you need to go get tested because, you've been all in his face and all this kind of stuff. And I said, okay. So I went and I got tested. And so it was like when they just called and confirmed that he was positive, everything got worse. So maybe I would say about 10 that night. So this is still Saturday, October 31st. I had to take him back because he said he couldn't breathe. He was having problems breathing. So I took him in. I was like, they're not going to let me come in because you tested positive. And so I said, I love you. And I was like, just, let me know, and then I'll come back and pick you up. So maybe around midnight that he called me and said they're going to admit him because his oxygen is getting lower. So I said, okay, just let me know. And again, I didn't really see a cause for concern. And so that was Sunday, November the 1st, when he was admitted. And, of course, like I said, they wouldn't let me go up there because he tested positive, and they just wouldn't let you come. And then I hadn't had my results yet either, so I just technically had to just stay home and quarantine. So it was like bad to worse in a matter of days. And like they put him on this like force placed hot air, like a CPAP mask. And so every time I would talk to him, it would make his oxygen go lower, so he couldn't really talk on the phone anymore. And so I was like, well, just text me when you can and I'll text you back. And we didn't really think anything of it. It didn't seem abnormal because, with reading about COVID, it just kind of seemed normal, and you kind of get worse before you get better. And so one of the nurses had called me, and they said that he had signed for an emergency ventilator if he needed it. And so they was just letting me know the updates because it was hard for him to kind of talk and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I wish he wouldn't have done that. But he was of sound mind and body, so it's nothing that I could have done as far as him signing for that. And so I would say maybe 5 or 6 days later, he was kind of up and he wasn't as weak. And they were letting me bring him homemade food up to the hospital. I still couldn't go in, but I was dropping it off, and then like, yay, he eating. So we were just so happy. that he was eating, because it was like if he was requesting food, especially from me, I was like, yay, I'm gonna make him feel better. And so every day I was going up to the hospital, sitting in the parking lot. I knew I couldn't go see him, but I just kind of felt close to him. And so that was maybe about a Friday, maybe that had to have been November 5th, November 6th, November 7th, that whole weekend. They called me and said, hey, his oxygen had just completely bottomed, and like they had to do an emergency ventilator for him. And I'm just like, what? So they're like, well, now you have to represent him. And I'm just like, what? Like it came out of nowhere, because he was just sitting there eating my homemade soup and taking pictures and videos, sending it to me. And so I literally could not go up there. The only thing I could do was just sit, outside and cry, because I couldn't go and see him. And so fast forward to maybe November 19th, maybe the 20th, they called me and they said, hey, it's been 20 days since, yeah, it was the 20th, because it was 20 days. No, let me see. Maybe it was the 17th, 18th, one of them. But they was like, it's been 20 days since he tested positive, so you can come up and visit him. And I'm like, yay, I get to go visit him. Ah. So I go up there, and it's like, I haven't seen him in 20 days. So it was like, what the hell? That was my first response, because I'm like, what's going on? Like, half of him was completely swollen. He had tubes everywhere. I mean, like, I don't want to get too detailed, but I'm just saying it's like a shock that you don't expect, and you can't really process it. And so it was like, one of the nurses, I stayed there a good 8 or 9 hours, and this male nurse came in and he was like, honey, you need to go home. You look horrible. And by this time, I hadn't really slept well, wasn't really eating, wasn't doing anything. And I was like, no, I'm okay. I don't want to leave him. And he was like, no, you look horrible. You need to go home. I started crying, and I was like, okay, I don't want to, and I was like, I really don't want to go, but I didn't want to leave my husband. So it was like, I'm thinking that was close to November 20th. It had to be 18th or 19th. I'm sorry. Everything is a blur right now, but I'll check, and then I'll put it in the next video. But like, on the way home, I started swerving. I'm about 15 minutes away from the hospital. Fell asleep twice at the stop sign. Then every light I went to, I was falling asleep. And I'm just swerving everywhere. And I was like, you really need to get some sleep. And so that is the beginning of the nightmare. And people always ask me, hey, how do you feel today? And I'm like, like I'm playing a star role on a Spielberg and King horror film. That's what I feel like. And people are like, oh, okay, because they don't know how to respond to that. They want you to say, oh, I'm okay. But I wasn't okay. And so I'm going to just stop this video with that. So just remember, it was about maybe November 20th when I was first able to see him. And then I will start the next video from that. And so I am going to put my Cash App and my PayPal information in every video, because it's not normal for someone to be in their 40s and be a widow. So it's not a lot of help out there for me. So I'm still working on trying to pay for his cremation and everything. But again, that'll be in another video. But thank you guys. I love you. I love you for the support and all of the encouraging words. And like I said, I'm going to take you on this journey, because you guys need to see the faces behind COVID. It's not fake news. It's real. And I want to put a face on us as a, a family, and what happened to us, and how we have suffered, and how we've, trying to grow, and we're trying to live, and we're trying to do all this other stuff. But I will see you guys soon. Okay, thank you so much.